You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast hosted by experienced consultants James Gurd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-commerce strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode. You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast, sponsored by Centra and Greben. More about them later. Got another interesting topic today. It's about customer experience and personalisation. What does this mean to heritage luxury brands? So I got one of my favourite brands on. I worked with them a long time ago, not with our guest today, but I've been following their story for a while. So first, a warm welcome to our guest. So Seb Villien is the digital director at Smythson. Hey, Seb, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. So we're going to ask you lots of interesting questions, but I guess for those listening, the context of this is we're talking about customer experience personalization strategies, and it varies massively when you get into like luxury and premium brands, and it does for like mass market. It doesn't mean it's more or less important. It's just execution varies quite considerably. So we thought it'd be really interesting to tell the story from that kind of heritage luxury brand lens. So before we start on the questions around Smythson, do you want to, number one, give people an introduction to who you are and what you do? And then also, for those who don't know Smythson well, can you give a bit of context to the brand?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the UK for 20 odd years. You wouldn't tell with my accent, but it's been a while. And I started my career in mail order, and I was an analyst, and then quickly moved into e-com, crunching some of the data, and realized that I actually enjoyed more doing something with the data than just providing it. So kind of moved into digital trading and then digital marketing. And over the years, worked for various brands, mostly high street fashion. So I was at Fat Face, White Stuff, more recently French Connection. So selling dresses mostly as my kind of day to day, and looking after trading, digital marketing, roadmap, and customer. Joined Smythson earlier this year, and really enjoying the move to a luxury brand. So bit of background on Smythson. So we're a stationery and leather goods retailer. We were founded in 1887, so been around a while, and quite an innovator. So Frank Smythson was a silversmith, and then he introduced the portable diary, like a pocket diary. I think it was around 1908. And that was quite revolutionary at the time, because it was the first time that people could take notes and make appointments on the go. So it was kind of the iPhone of the time. Up to then, it was only on desks that you would arrange your errands and meetings with people. So the idea of having that in your pocket was quite a big step. And obviously, diaries are still a really big part of our business. We do diaries, notebooks on our kind of signature featherweight paper. That's a really, really big part of the brand. And then all leather goods, so from handbags to briefcases to small leather goods.
Excellent. So let's drill in a bit more about from the personal point of view, because I think it's really interesting when people move from specific kind of like verticals into others. And what you perceived before we get into that, actually, about the e-com on Smythson, what have you noticed? So, from moving from fashion background, what are the key strategic and trading differences that you experience now moving into the luxury leatherwear space?
So, I guess a kind of couple that spring to mind in terms of the category vertical, selling leather goods, and a lot of them are personalized because we gold stamp a lot of our items. Our returns rate is very, very low, which is great, compared to trying to sell jumpsuits online. And so, anyone listening who's selling women's fashion would definitely resonate. So big difference there in how we approach the business, knowing that our demand is, much closer to our sales than it is with fashion. And I guess from high street to luxury, a key difference in the pace of our, we have 2 main collections in a year. We're definitely not in the world of, introducing newness every week and trying to drive people through that and then having to mark it down. So that allows us to have a more defined and thorough storytelling around our collection and really engage with our customers over a period of time, as opposed to the kind of volume that goes with high street fashion.
Grebin create digital flagship stores for iconic brands of today and tomorrow. We are the #1 Centra agency in the world, with more than 50 Centra implementations to date. We are also e-commerce design specialists, platform and tech partner agnostic. Try our new e-commerce design subscription. Visit grebin.com.
Yeah, I think that that whole piece about not dropping products all the time and and the lower returns together, but the ability to focus a bit more, I guess, on storytelling and investing in that customer piece, having the margins to do so is quite an interesting difference. So let's move on to focus on user experience. And UX gets talked about a lot, and it means different things to different brands. And I've heard a lot over the last 12 to 18 months about people talking about sharpening their focus on whether you want to call it CX or UX. So I'd love to, what to Smythson does user experience mean? Like what does good user experience look like to you and your customers?
So I think for me, it's definitely more CX than UX, and the customer experience has to be on point, and ultimately it is obviously any touch point with a brand, the experience has to be seamless. But if we think about the digital experience, it's really to replicate what you would expect from a store experience. And when you go into a luxury store, and you expect the sales associate to be behaving in a certain way, everything is nice. It kind of gives you a nice feeling. It's relaxing, it's helpful, all of that. So how do we try and mimic that online? There's obviously the basics of UX, that's a given. You want to have no friction on your website. For me, they are kind of key principles that we definitely must adhere to and not try and deviate from what people expect. Whether we're a luxury brand or fast fashion, ultimately you want to be able to find the product easily. You want checkout to be smooth. So that bit is kind of the given. Where we then replicate the store experience and enhance the brands through CX is very much, how do we use the imagery? How do we intertwine some storytelling into the purchase journey? And then post-purchase, how do we keep that kind of smooth, elevated journey going from, all the comms, the logistics partners, the packaging, the actual product packaging, within the parcels, the post-purchase communication, interactions with customer service. So it's joining all of these dots, which it's all pretty simple, but actually requires quite a lot of work and coordination to make sure that the end-to-end experience is as smooth and as elevated as it is when you visit a store.
Centra is the only commerce platform built exclusively for fashion brands. Over 300 fashion brands run on Centra, including icons like Paul Smith, Jeff, Avenue, and Nudie Jeans. Centra solves business logic challenges for fashion brands like no other platform, and they are on a mission to help you scale up rapidly, globally, across all online and offline channels. Take your fashion brand global, faster, further, stronger today. Yeah, that post-purchase one is really, really interesting actually, because working with different delivery services and couriers, like across the e-commerce space, it can vary massively. Do you work with? Are you like working with any specific like concierge services or specific like last mile couriers to try and control that a bit more closely than just using standardized couriers, or is it more about working with your existing couriers to make sure that the quality levels are maintained?
Yeah, so we work closely with our the couriers that we use, and making sure that obviously, again, it's like the basics. So the SLAs and delivering things on time, delivering things fast. That all of that is happening, and then is what else can we do to enhance the journey? Additional services that can be made available to our customers. How do we work around flexibility and whatever the needs are for our customers. And also the additional element is the human touch and being there for the odd requests, sorting out what our customers are needing. So from a more of a concierge element is really through our customer service team, who do an amazing job at sorting out anything and everything that customers might have, connecting with the couriers, trying to find the driver, all of these bits. So we maximize the experience as much as we can.
Yeah, I think that's the critical thing, isn't it? It's that connectivity between the post-purchase teams, whether it's like supply chain people, making sure stuff's getting to people, and the customer care, so that you handle things at exception level. I remember years ago, I thought reading about Zappos and that, I think they were ahead of the curve from a lot of businesses who've probably caught up now in terms of that CX of empowering customer service team to like manage exceptions proactively, not just within policy. So I got a question actually, because you mentioned about obviously the people element of what you provide to your customers, and we'll come on to some of the high-end like one-to-one experiences later. But you have a live chat on the site, I think it's using Ola. Where are you at in terms of the role of like AI versus real people? Because the real person contact is very important, but at scale that's hard to maintain, and increasingly brands are looking at how they can use AI but within a personalized delivery so that it stays on brand, on point. Like, where are you guys at with that? Are you trusting any of those interactions to AI, or is it all real person driven?
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. And again, difference between high street and volume versus luxury. So for us, AI is more in the background and trying to facilitate tasks that can free up time to have one-to-one real relationship with customers. So from a chat point of view, we haven't gone down the bot route and automation because it doesn't feel right for our brand. An interesting contrast as well is, for years I've, looked after customer service teams as part of my roles, and, your kind of number one priority is, okay, reduce the WISMO, less queries. How do we just answer things quickly? How do we minimize the contacts? Well, in our case, customer service team is very much a added value team. So, they sell. So they are actually a revenue center. And they are there to increase loyalty, to really work with customers on, whatever they need. So we're definitely not going down the route of using AI for customer communications. It's more, are they tasks that can be automated? Can we use AI in the background to free up time and invest more in that front-facing role?
Yeah, that makes sense. And let's talk about that investment in the customer service element of customer experience. Because when we first talked about the podcast, you said about how at Smythson you see customer service as a revenue generation. It's not just providing a service and dealing with issues. Can you talk us through how you can achieve that? Like, how do you ensure that seen as a revenue generator as well as a service delivery doesn't compromise like the overall customer experience, but actually enhances it?
So we actually have customers who much prefer the interaction with customer service. So we've got kind of inbound queries of I would like what I had last year, please, and it's like, okay, fine. So we sort that, and then we also do a lot of outbound campaigns with our customers, again, knowing, their purchase history, knowing, what we've got. So the team will, proactively contact, different groups of customers at different times. And then we also, because of the price point, as always online, some customers need a bit of a helping hands. But I think even more so because of the price point and because of the personalization element, some of our customers just want to double check, just want to make sure they'd like a proof of what is it going to look like once I, engrave this. So this is where our customers team, can, get, in touch with them, and really help them along the way. And there we see, obviously a higher spend per customer than, versus people who just, shop online directly.
Yeah, and I've seen parallels in other luxury areas like jewelry, where there's a segment of the customer base, and it's not necessarily VIP either. It's people who have a longer relationship with the brand and buy regularly. Therefore, their lifetime value is good, even if they're not spending, like they're not buying the most expensive items. And it's almost over time like one-to-one relationships evolve between specific customer care reps and the end customer. And if you break that through just sticking people through automated flows, you can lose a lot of customer satisfaction. So it's interesting to hear how important that is to you. Which leads me on to my next question, which is measurement. Like, what are your KPIs around customer service? Because revenue and conversion is important. But as you said, it's not just about those cold revenue numbers, because keeping customers happy is critical. So how do you measure the impact and success of customer service?
So we, made the conscious decision of not having, post-purchase surveys and CSATs and, net promoter score, by openly asking customers, because again, it doesn't necessarily feel on brand. However, we obviously know who is, getting in touch. So we see what is their revenue, what is their lifetime value. We know that amongst our top 1% customers, there's a much higher percentage of people who interact and shop via the customer service compared to the total file. So we look at longevity, we look at purchase frequency, recency monitoring, like the kind of normal RFM model. And overlay the touch points. So we can then really measure the added value of the customer service team, and that justifies the investment in people to keep providing that service. And then on a more kind of ad hoc basis, we also receive obviously online kind of reviews, but also lovely written letters. People get out of their way to thank the person who's helped them, because we do have customers who come to us with slightly specific complex requests, especially with personalization. They don't exactly know what they want, and they get guided through these are your different options and and then very happy with the product in the end. Or they come to us on a very, very limited time scale. It's not unusual to have around this time when the US starts waking up, people calling and said, I really need all of this tomorrow, and I'm in New York and it has to be personalized and So our customer service team is just, helping fast process all of that. And then people do, come back and like, how helpful was, this person or that person. So it's obviously, ad hoc, but that kind of forms part of, great great service is being delivered, because we are receiving these unprompted, well done and thank yous. And it is also really nice with, all the people involved to know that, that extra mile is getting noticed, and ultimately customers are happy with it.
Leads me on to the next topic pretty nicely, actually, which is around VIPs, loyalty. And I know often businesses working in luxury don't use terminology VIPs all the time anyway. But what does a loyalty strategy look like in Smythson? Because it's not going to be like a high street, which is a lot more points and offers and promotion led, although that is inevitably going to be an element. But what does loyalty look like? How do you reward customers?
So we have, as any business, but we've got various types of customers. So we've got a repeat base because we sell diaries, and that's quite a convenient item to sell because it obviously expires every year. So that gives us a good base to get in touch with people who have bought previously, and it's time to renew. So that helps us to get repeat purchase. We then have those customers who are very much loyal from that point of view, but that's kind of all they buy, and they don't necessarily cross to another category, and that's fine. That's the type of product. But then we also sell leather goods, and we also sell box work, so jewelry boxes, which are a lot more expensive. So for these type of customers, the frequency might be less, but the monetary value is quite high. So we kind of look at both elements when we look at loyalty and how we engage with customers. So there's customers who spend more. We know that above a certain threshold, if they place a second order with us, within a certain time frame, then their lifetime value is much higher. So we invest in that relationship and making sure that we follow up on that. People who buy relatively less expensive items, like our notebooks or diaries, but items that lend themselves to being repeated, we have different comm strategy with them to make sure that we're there at the right time, and that we help them repeat quite easily. So it's very much matching the different types of customers to the different types of products, and then applying different strategies of the frequency and the type of comms that we share with them. So be it digital communications, written communications, or courtesy calls. It's kind of the different options for different groups of people, and that can go up to events in our stores, exclusive kind of shopping environment for certain types of customers. So kind of a different menu of different things for the different segments of customers.
Yeah, I really like the experiential side of rewards and perks is really nice. Exclusivity that you can't get elsewhere, Rob, because it's about value, isn't it? Not just price. And people don't often value discounts as much as they value something that somebody else cannot get. Interesting. So another question around that, because you alluded to it earlier, that you've got high profile individuals, high net worth individuals. You look to provide one-to-one experiences. You have direct relationship with customer service teams and those people. And you're doing things like, expediting products for people based on specific needs. But that involves a lot of collaboration within the business because it impacts different teams. Customer care have got to know what they can and cannot do and what's permissible operationally. How do you handle that and make sure it's scalable? Because you could make a promise to a customer, but actually the production team can't make it work. So how do you handle that to make sure behind the scenes is working effectively together?
So again, our customer team is absolutely key to that. They are physically located within our warehouse, where all the gold stamping is also happening. So they have a direct relationship with the people on the ground to make things happen, to expedite if we need to, or all of that. So they've got, great relationship across all the operational functions. And then the key thing for me is to give them the freedom to operate within an agreed set of parameters. So they know that they can use discretion to upgrade an order, to do whatever is needed to satisfy the requirements of the customer. So trying to remove some of the red tape, give people empower people to run their own function, for me is absolutely key in delivering that smooth experience, because it means that things go fast. They don't need to check. They know that this is what I can do. I've got the power to enable this. I've got the power to go and say, look, all of this has to be done first. And the people who are, on the ground, are, fine to, okay, I'll listen to what you're saying. That's not a matter to me. As opposed to, well, I've got other SLAs and I can't, prioritize this. So therefore, I need to check, and and then it becomes very bureaucratic, and then it delays everything. So it's keeping a structure, because otherwise it's a bit of a mess. So we have to make sure that there is a structure, but people know that the teams are empowered to make decisions, and they can organize their workload. They can use discretion when needed. And that ultimately, the way everyone is kind of measured and the way everyone looks at success is what do overall our sales look like? What does our customer file looks like? So by sharing what the end result is, we make sure that we involve everyone, and then they know, okay, what I'm doing is contributing to this, so it's fine. We can continue.
I think that word empowerment is so important, because as a customer, I've had experience with businesses where customer service teams have a flexible framework that can help me resolve issues. I'm not going to call any names out, I don't believe in doing that, versus a business where it's been no, and I've had to just put massive complaints in to get listened to, for someone to say, oh yeah, my manager can approve that. And it's really frustrating, because it makes you distrust that brand going forward, and it stops me shopping with people. And I really like, I mentioned Zappos earlier. They were the ones who years ago just really impressed me, because they put in place something very similar to what you're saying, which is the customer service team were allowed to give a discretionary $50 bonus each month. Each of them could do it to anyone else in the team for going above and beyond the call of duty with customers. So they didn't have to get it signed off. It was built into the framework for them to reward a colleague. And I just saw what really lovely thinking, because it's like reward people for excellence rather than punish them with policy.
Mm-hmm. And I think it also then translates in, people retention, because there is a lot more fulfillment in, doing a good job, because you've got freedom to operate, within your function. You can, do what needs to be done. Then you get these, lovely thank you notes, unprompted communications back from customers, and it kind of feeds, all back into it. That is like, I'm happy in my job, because I can, I'm being given the ability to do a good job, and that pays off.
Yeah, and you're trusting them, which is great, because if you treat people like adults, they tend to behave like adults, don't they, rather than school kids. But a link to that, actually, sub question of that is attracting and retaining talent is always a challenge for e-commerce, because there's so much competition. And because of the style of the customer service you're delivering, you need a particular type of person, because not everybody is comfortable building a relationship. Not everyone wants to have that proactive relationship. how do you do that? How do you make sure that you bring the right? I know it can't be perfect all the time, but how do you make sure you bring the right people in so that they can thrive, but you've got the right personalities?
Yeah, I mean, it is, obviously always tricky. We've got a very thorough recruitment process. There's, different meetings with different people at different times and not always the same to really try and assess. And it's always very difficult when you recruit someone to, really know how it's going to work. But ultimately, it's the amount of training that the team puts in to make sure that any new person coming on board is, fully onboarded onto the brand, understands, what we do, understand the product. Again, being based on site helps because they can see the processes. They can see some products being made. They can see the goal sampling. They can see all of that. And then looking at all the different communication channels, we tend to introduce them one by one and kind of build up on how much a new person is getting involved in. So we obviously have high standards that we need to meet because of our brand positioning. So to guarantee that, we really have a kind of step-by-step approach to how much is a new person going to do, and how much do they do in the background before they can first be kind of a front line with a customer, and then what is the first channel that they will get involved in. Until they are totally multi-skilled and can do, chat and calls and emails and whatever else.
Cool. So I got a question around the tech stack for this actually is if I get it right, you're on Salesforce, aren't you, for your core commerce platform?
Yeah.
Yeah. What have you built around that? Because you obviously got customer service, live chat, ticketing, etc. What other tech do you use around the website to deliver additional capabilities, help you improve customer experience online?
So, I mean, that's something that we, constantly review. So we've got the core tech stack, and so we're on Salesforce. We actually have quite a few Salesforce products. So that, helps connect the experience. On site, we have personalization in the sense of like product recommendation through a third party. We then implement personalization in the sense of kind of one-to-one through our email providers tech. So we use that to power different site experience for different group of customers coming from email. So a combination of Salesforce built experience linked to segments from the email provider to have different experiences on site.
And are you looking at have you got any specific like future tech that you want to bring in? Because really, I mean, e-commerce is quite amusing because it feels like quite a cyclical space where terminology comes up, dies down, then comes back, and then some stuff lands and actually has proper use cases and other stays in a hype cycle. But I've seen a lot more talk around things like augmented reality again and people looking for use cases. Are there any areas where you as a brand are looking to like expand and invest from a tech point of view, or is it more to get more out of what you've already got?
I think getting more out of what we've got is always, a good one to maximize profitability. We can definitely plug in all sorts of everything, but I think, I always think it's a bit like your iPhone. You kind of only use 20% of what it can do. So it's trying to understand, well, actually, with what we've got, is there not more than that we can achieve? And the answer is, more often than not, yes. So that's the first point of call. In terms of additional things that we're definitely looking at and we'll expand on is really around personalization, in the sense of because personalization can mean different things to different people, and in this context, it's really the product personalization. So as I said, we do a lot of gold stamping. You can add your initials to a wallet or something, and that to me is a good opportunity on site to enhance the experience by using that element a lot more than what we do. So at the moment you can do that at product level, but this is something that we're looking at expanding the use of.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's the last, specifically the last, I guess, 24 months, when e-commerce had a bit of a reality check after the COVID boost has dropped off, as more people are looking to squeeze stuff out of existing tech stacks. Doesn't mean that they won't pivot in the future, but I think the pace of pivoting onto new stacks has slowed down a bit. So yeah, interesting in that. So let's finish off around internationalisation and localisation. Heritage brands, very well known in the UK. Where is your focus internationally? And then the second part is, to what degree do you localise from a customer experience point of view? Because sometimes what customers expect and the way they want to interact varies from region to region. So how are you adapting and how are you approaching that?
Yeah, so we've got 8 websites, and I guess, there is, more tech in play to help with that. We've got a localized site for the US, which is our biggest international market, which allegedly one of the easiest operationally, because it's in English. It's more or less the same zone. Then we've got localized site in language in Europe. So we've got France, Germany, Italy. We've got a Japanese website, also totally localized. So quite a lot in terms of coordinating translation, customer communications, and replicating that within the customer service team, and offering service in language. So we really look at offering a global representation of the brand that is static and a unified presence. So that's first and foremost key, that as a global brand, the experience that you get, whether you're one of our customers in Japan or one of our customers in the US, you recognize Smythson, and you've got the similar experience. And then we obviously apply some local differences. There's elements that are trades based. What's selling, what's trending, what's happening. The weather is not as big as in fashion, but there's a little bit of that, key dates, that type of things. And then there's also monitoring the market, what is happening in that market, what are other brands doing, what else do we need to do to adjust, what do we need to offer for that customer. So we constantly review whether we need to add any payment methods, any logistics, delivery methods, this kind of things. And from a UX point of view, are there any differences that are quite noticeable in the market that we haven't replicated, and therefore do we need to deviate slightly from our main kind of site? Trying not to do that too much, because obviously it becomes a lot harder to navigate.
Yeah, the internationalisation and differentiation is always a challenge, honestly, because you don't want to diverge too much at a core platform level, because you're right, that becomes an absolute pain. Interesting. Look, really appreciate you taking the time. I could ask you lots more questions, but I appreciate you also have a day's work to do. So, Seb, really appreciate taking time. Really enjoyed catching up and hearing where Smythson's got to since I've worked with the business.
No, pleasure.
And thanks everyone for listening. Hope you found it useful. Do reach out to Seb. There's a link to him and his LinkedIn profile in the landing page. If you've got any other questions or you want to connect, if you're another digital leader, please do so. And do keep your ear out for our next episode. We drop them on every week, and make sure you're following us on LinkedIn. Till next week, everyone. You're listening to the Inside Commerce podcast, hosted by experienced consultants James Gurd and Paul Rogers. Inside Commerce is your fast track to digital knowledge, featuring interviews with leading e-commerce retailers, industry thought leaders, and the C-suite of key tech companies to explore the latest in digital strategy, customer experience, and tech. Discover what the latest trends really mean and get practical advice based on experience to help fine-tune your e-com strategy and tech stack. Follow us on LinkedIn and reach out to James or Paul if you'd like to discuss an e-commerce project. We hope you enjoy the latest episode.